Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent. My name is Trent of trenttokens.com. I'm a big fan of the game called True Dungeon and a very avid collector of tokens, which you can see a lot of back here on the shelves. In today's special episode, I'll be interviewing Caitlin Patrick Nichols. I should probably get her name right. Caitlin Patrick Nichols. She's a new full-time employee at True Dungeon, and she has volunteered as an NPC and many other roles for many years, and she recently became a full-time employee. So it's a very special behind-the-scenes look, and she has promised, she doesn't know this, but she has promised to tell us terrible stories about Jeff and wonderful stories about Lori, so I'm very excited about that. And oh yeah, don't forget to do that clicking, liking, and subscribing and sharing and all of that other stuff. It's good to spread the love of True Dungeon and for the show, which is very important. But nobody wants to see me. Let's get to our special guest, Caitlin. Everybody say hello to Caitlin.
Hello. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, the audience loves you. Oh, look at all that clapping. Hello, Caitlin, and welcome to the show.
Hi.
It's so good to have you. I know it's been a long time since I've been, trying to get you on the show, but maybe you didn't know that. But I had to ask permission from Jeff and Lori and they had to sign special agreements that I wouldn't say anything bad, but they didn't say that you can't say anything bad. So just so you know that.
Of course,
Okay.
They know that I can't really be silent.
Yes, you cannot be silenced. All right, so let's say hello to a couple people in chat. Looks like we're hello, Christopher, Gilstrife, Tom, and Katrina. Oh my Jiminy Crickets, Katrina.
Oh Lord, Katrina.
Oh no! So now this means that we have to tell bad stories about Katrina as well. Okay.
I have so many.
Aha! Okay, that will be half the show. This show will be titled "Terrible Things About Katrina." But I have a zillion questions, and thank you so much for being here and being ready for these questions. And everybody in the chat, if you have any questions, do me a favor. You could type "question" and then your question, so my eyeballs can catch those questions. By the way, Tom says, "Hey, boss." So, are you the boss of Tom?
I think it would depend on the event.
Okay, Tom. Well, everyone's got to have a boss. That means you've got a couple of bosses. I have a couple as well. And Matthew, hello, Matthew Blum. Good to have you in the chat. All right, so let's, like I said, I have a bunch of questions. But before we get to the questions, I have what people call icebreaker questions. So are you ready for the icebreaker round?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Favorite color?
Purple.
Correct. See, it's right here behind me. Purple. Favorite book or movie? And.
Oh, that's a rough one, actually. I'm not good at picking favorites when it comes to media because I consume so much media all the time.
Me too. I hate this question. Your favorite couple, then?
Well, for books, I'm a really big fan of Anne Bishop as an author. She writes dark fantasy. I've been reading her since I was in middle school. I love Jacqueline Carey. She does kind of a historical fantasy, but with some really dark twists to it. Movie-wise, I am a sucker for horrendous action flicks. I am obsessed with the Fast and Furious movies, and it's got lots of explosions and very little plot unfold.
Oh, really? I have a friend who's an auteur, who's a critical thinker of film. He has a film degree. I have a film degree, so I expect us to talk about highfalutin films. He loves the Fast and Furious. What's wrong with him? I could never get into it for some reason. So... it's okay.
Listen,
it's an incorrect answer, but that's fine.
You just need to watch Fast Cars.
I'm not a car guy, or person, so maybe that's it, but I love rom-coms. I can cry at any rom-com, especially if there's an airport and the running scene at the end,
Favorite rom-com, go.
Love Actually. That's kind of an easy one. I can never say anything about a favorite. I can never pick one. I only have a couple, but that one I can easily say. Love Actually. It's so wonderful.
I can at least top 3 rom-coms, and Love Actually is not any of them. I do not actually enjoy
Well,
that.
that has been our show. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed our show. No, it's okay. You can be incorrect. That's okay. That's okay. Let's say Rob Ramsey says hello. CPN and Trent from Rob and Lori. Oh, that's right. There's a couple Loris. So,
my goodness.
Ooh, you know what?
A special Rob tuning in.
Speaking of Rob and Lori, since they're here, I'm going to give the audience a little teaser. Rob, Lori, and myself, we are going to shoot some videos at Gen Con this year, and it's going to be awesome. So stay tuned for that post Gen Con, and Rob's going to edit it, of course. It's going to be amazing. So there's a little tidbit for the viewers.
I know a little smidge about some of that because Rob and I have talked about it, and I'm very excited to see what you guys put out.
You would know something about that. Yeah. So, of course. All right. So we left off at favorite book or movie. Last show you binged watched?
The last one I binge watched start to finish was the Fallout show that just came out.
Oh, don't tell me the end. I'm trying to savor it. I've got a couple.
Love is the word, but yeah. I adored it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I started playing Fallout 4 again because, as I kind of missed it. I think the last time I played was 2015. It's kind of crazy. And Chris Samir, hello. Chris Samir has joined us. Cats or dogs? Next question.
I am a dog person. I don't dislike cats. I just very much prefer dogs.
Okay, correct. Name of your first pet?
Scooter. Technically, there were 2. There was Scooter the Doberman, and then Petey, my mom's Chihuahua. But Petey hated me because when I was born, he was no longer the baby.
Chihuahuas, I think, hate everyone. Favorite type of music?
I'm gonna go with bluesy kind of stuff.
Really? Have you ever gone to the South and walked into a bluesy bar and just sat there and soaked in the blues?
I have, and it's wonderful. Of course, I'm from Kentucky, so we're not the South. The North won't claim us either. They're the redheaded stepchild. But there's bluegrass and blues, all kinds of music festivals close to where I grew up. I used to love doing that stuff.
Okay, that's correct. Favorite food?
It's just a general cheese products favorite.
Okay. All right. General cheese products. Hey, yeah, that's correct. Favorite hobby?
It's hard to go wrong. Probably video games. Love playing my video games.
Do you have a favorite video game or a video game genre?
Well, favorite all time is going to be Final Fantasy VII. I've really been enjoying playing Remake and now Rebirth, and very excited to see where they go with the end of that little series.
Okay, all right. Those are all correct answers. Excellent. All right, so now if anyone has questions in the chat, please say question and whatever your question is. You can ask anything and everything. I've already talked to Caitlin. She says she's an open book, so all questions are on the table. Any questions for her?
I do not promise straight answers, but I'll try to give an answer for everything.
That's fine. That's fine. And if I ask it, that means I think it's okay. So if I skip your question, that means you're being naughty. You can ask questions about Caitlin, about True Dungeon, any questions you might have for me. But let's definitely fire up those questions if you have any. Now, speaking of questions, I have a long list. I've got a little cheat list over here. Here we go. Now, first, this is one of my favorite to ask everybody. For someone who's never heard about True Dungeon before, how would you describe it?
So I have a pitch on this all worked up because I describe this to people all the time. If you imagine that a haunted house, a traditional D&D dungeon crawl, and an escape room all had a baby and created a 2-hour adventure, that's True Dungeon.
Okay. All right. I like it. That was I snuck in a drink of water there too. Yeah. I kind of like the haunted house aspect of it too, but I'm a little afraid to use it sometimes because I don't want people to think it's some scary thing. It's really just the structure and the physicalization of it going room to room to room.
Yeah, and a lot of the props and set pieces and things come out of Haunt culture haunt companies, that kind of stuff.
Right. So we have a new joiner here, Raven. Thank you so much for joining us. Raven, your work usually doesn't allow you to join. I'm so glad you're here. So Raven says, "Hi Trent, glad I can catch the show live for a change." Right, that's what I just said. So Guildstrife has a question. What was your first TD run? So that's on my list too, but we'll jump right to it. What was your first TD run?
I assume you mean run as a player and not as a volunteer?
I believe that would be my inference there, if that's a word.
That would be Barbbeard's Treasure at Gen Con last year.
Oh my
I've been
God.
volunteering a very long time, and I only just got to play.
Now, you didn't do that run with me, did you?
No, I didn't, because my first run, Andrew bought tickets for
Okay.
him and me and one of his buddies and my bestie and her boyfriend. So.
I think I may have heard about that run or something. Okay.
Oh God, what did we do?
Yeah, that's probably why I think I've heard of that run. Guildstrife actually says both. So which one, what was your, and actually that I'm going to get to that answer there, Guildstrife, with this question. How did you first hear about True Dungeon? And my notes say, did you play before volunteering? But no, you volunteered a lot before you played. So how did you first hear about True Dungeon?
Katrina. Katrina is the one that introduced me to TD. She ended up, her first year was 2011. And I think it had started actually because she went and just did some modeling shoots for a costume piece for one of the adventures they were going to do. And after she did it, she came back to Louisville, where I lived at the time, and was just, you need to try this out. And so the very next year I signed up, and I have been with TD as a volunteer ever since.
Wow. So it's all her fault. And in chat, Katrina says it was me. Oh my God, that is crazy. It's so amazing how these little connections lead to this ocean of discovery. So, I mean, you're an integral part of True Dungeon. You're a cornerstone of its existence.
I don't know about that.
No, you, as is Katrina. So, I think True Dungeon attracts these kind of people who are kind-hearted and sweet and caring and giving, and that's what True Dungeon is, at least to me. And then it attracts even more people like that. So I adore True Dungeon.
And it's two of us.
Yeah. So Raven says, "Well done, Katrina," and I say, "Yes, good job." Rob has a question. If True Dungeon were to have a permanent location instead of just at conventions, where it could be played all the time, what city in the States would you locate it in? Rob, you live here now. You don't have to say in the States anymore.
That's a great question. I can't believe I'm going to say this, and Andrew's going to give me so much hell for this later. I would go with Chicago, honestly, because don't get me wrong, I love Carbondale. It's great. It was great when I went down there for SkullCon. I'm going to go back here in a couple of weeks. But I think that it would need, if we were going to do a permanent location, we need to be in a spot with a high population where we can pull in more local people, all that, generate more interest. And I think that a city like Chicago would be the place to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lived there for 3 years. Love Chicago. There's tons of theater people there too, so you could pull from the theater community. And I love the food there. I'm actually trying to convince my wife. I don't know if she's watching. Hi, honey, if you're watching. That's where we should move. I live there. We've lived in LA and New York, and I'd love to move to Chicago in the latter years of my life, and so it'd be easier to get to conventions and like maybe bring binders and tokens to sell or whatever. So
it is a very central location, particularly for the conventions that we do.
Yep, I agree. So great question and wonderful answer. Katrina says Caitlin is good people. She works hard and kicks ass. Those are good Now, Katrina has a
She's
suggestion.
just hoping I won't tell bad stories on her.
Oh, it's way past too late for that. You get $1 for every bad story. But Katrina is suggesting Louisville, Kentucky as a permanent location.
I do definitely get, we have a number of volunteers in Louisville. I can see why they'd be interested in that, but I do still think that Chicago would be the better location.
Well, we could get a True Dungeon apartment and everybody could live there. So I've lived it. It gets cold. I'll tell you that. It gets cold there, but it's a great city. And Karma Dump has joined us. Welcome, Karma Dump. And Karma Dump says Chicago. Correct answer. Yeah, I'm with you. And Raven thinks that there's direct flights from Edmonton to Chicago, unlike Edmonton to Indy. Yeah. What? Chris Amir, you're in Chicago? Yeah, I lived there. I lived in there 3 years. I loved it. It was great. Hopefully I'll be back.
We've got a bunch of folks in Chicago.
Yeah, I know, which is kind of cool. All right, so keep those questions coming, chat, and let's move on to my questions. When did you first volunteer, and as what role? Do you remember?
So
Back in those days?
I do. My first role was in 2012, and I played an automaton, which was a living marble statue. And 2012 also happened to be right around the time of the Weeping Angel episodes of Doctor Who. And I'm not a Doctor Who person, but I know enough people who are that I was aware of it at the time. So I can very clearly remember having a party come into the room, and they had a small child with them. And when they came into the room, I took up the pose of the Weeping Angels, and the kids started crying. And I felt awful and awesome.
Oh no, your first experience was making children cry? Oh my God.
It was, and I had a blast.
I'm not familiar with the Doctor Who series, but I know it's insanely popular. Now, what kind of outfit were you? Spray painted, or was it a costume?
We still, well, at least last time I checked, we still actually have the costumes that I wore. They were a white dress that had kind of a splotchy tie-dye effect that looked like marble in the dungeon lighting.
I see.
And then I had a latex headpiece that looked like, the carved hair of a marble statue, and then we painted all of my visible skin. It was a really cool costume.
I don't think I've seen that particular costume or heard of it before. That is before my time. I started in 16, so that was 12. Wow, very, very cool. And what various roles have you done as a volunteer?
Well, most of my roles have been NPCs, either as a combat NPC or an NPC DM. I've done a lot more NPC DM than anything else. Beyond that, I went straight from doing that into being an adventure coordinator, and from adventure coordinator to now employee.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's got to be tiresome, though, to every 12 minutes come in and attack and be killed or not killed, and just all day long. Or how long are the shifts? Is it, I guess it's obviously it's different at different conventions.
It is different at different conventions. Your average shift, when you factor in NPC makeup time, is going to be around 9 hours. Because NPCs, particularly if you've got something extra complicated like the living marble statue, you have to come in, 20, 30, sometimes even 40 minutes early in order to make sure you are fully suited up before you have to get your first party.
Interesting. Very cool. Yeah, I've never volunteered. I think it would be cool to do that, but I don't know if I could be on my feet that long. I'm getting too old.
You could be a killer NPC, Trent. We'll build something so that you can sit and you just act from the waist
if I could
up.
be maybe like a some type of disabled leg issue with like a magical wheelchair. I mean, yeah, maybe I'll think about something like that.
Hey, there's been a number of props and characters that we've done over the years that have required NPCs to be in weird, different locations, or sitting up high above everyone, which 2016 when you started. Were you there for Into the Underdark? I can't remember what year it was.
Wait, that sounds like 15. Was that the spider stuff?
Yes,
That was
so that was the year
15.
before you started. Okay, I
Yeah.
couldn't remember the year. But that year there was a drow traveling NPC, and I got to play it only for one shift because I unfortunately have a bad ankle and it acted up on me that weekend. But in room 5 or 6, the drow turned on the party,
Of
which
course.
is totally not a thing that NPCs ever do in True Dungeon. But what we had to do was, after we moved away from the party, we ran around a corner, ducked through a curtain, climbed up inside this giant spider body. And we were just from the waist up a drow and from the waist down a spider on the ceiling of the dungeon looking down at the party.
Wow.
It was so much fun.
I've either seen that before, so maybe I did that, or maybe that was 16. I'm not sure. Or that device, that theatrical device. I've seen that before, which was pretty cool.
It's definitely still around. It's still actually in the warehouse now.
Yeah, there's been a couple that I've seen that are like that. Harpy, if I recall, and some other things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let's jump back to the chat. We got someone named John at True Dungeon. I don't know who this person is, but
Yeah, he doesn't sound like.
I know they sound terrible. He says, Chicago, no thanks. Well, to you then. But Fred agrees on Chicago, and I know the next person will. Belinda. Hello, Belinda. Hello, got home and switched from phone to computer. Chicago would be great as a permanent location. Easier for folks to get to. Also, she lives there. Raven says the automaton angel was creepy. Gilstrife says...
I loved that role.
Yes, well, it does sound like a good one. Gilstrife says it's always funny if you can make a child cry. Oh my God, do you have children? It's so terrible. Tom says when children cry in the dungeon, I laugh a lot. Oh, what's wrong with these people? Read the waiver, parents. Raven says, Trent, you do a lot for TD without volunteering at conventions. Okay, really I agree, Raven. And Fred says Inside World of the Dragons comes to mind. Dragon puppeteer being a wall sitting down. Karma Dump says that. And Raven wants to know if the drow had high heels.
Well, some of them did. I did not. By that point, I had volunteered enough as an NPC that I knew better, and I was wearing flat boots with inserts.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I actually, nobody cares, but I'll tell you, when I first joined the Navy, was this my first job? Yeah, it was my first job. I was in the Presidential Ceremonial Guard, and that's the people that you see, like when dignitaries visit, and they're they're standing there at attention. Some have flags. I was at the height where I had a rifle doing present arms, and I was also on the drill team, throwing the rifles around, catching it, etc. And we had to do long parades and also stand on our feet long hours. So the trick is those inserts. That is definitely a trick. So I would highly recommend inserts if you have to stand long time. All right, so next
I buy new inserts every Gen Con.
Another trick is to just change your shoes. Even if it's the same type of shoe, or a different type. Just change your shoes halfway through the day, and you just feel refreshed. It's kind of like a psychological trick. Next up on my list, keep the questions coming in chat, was what was it about True Dungeon that made you want to keep volunteering? Because you did it, and then you kept doing it. Why?
So this actually is a great story about Lori, too.
Okay.
Prior to True Dungeon, I had been working at anime and gaming conventions for years. I don't work for as many now as I used to, but over time I've done everything from lowest level volunteer all the way up to being a major convention organizer. And I went from doing that with anime shows where, for the most part, the only thing you really get for free is your badge, and you are still working just as hard. And that's different per convention. Some conventions book your hotel room, yada yada, but this is the early 2000s, so not everybody had the best volunteer perks. And I went from that to True Dungeon, where your hotel is covered, your badge is covered, and they genuinely take care of you. While I was in that automaton costume, one shift came around and I don't know what I had eaten, but I ended up with food poisoning.
Oh,
I was hurting, I did not feel good, and I didn't want to run out on a shift because it was my first time volunteering and I have just enough anxiety to be like, "Oh God, no, they'll never let me come back."
yeah.
Um, so I did what they told us we should do, contact Lori and let her know. And the next thing I know, Lori comes into the room in the dungeon I am in with a tiny little gift bag from the hotel. This is back when we were in Hall A and all the volunteers stayed at the Courtyard Mayor. She had actually gone to the little hotel store and bought me some Pepto Bismol because my stomach was hurting so badly. And then she
Wow.
delivered it herself to make sure I was okay and tried to get me to, find a replacement or something if I needed to go lay down. I wouldn't do it because I'm stubborn. But she just put so much effort into taking care of a volunteer that she had never met before that weekend that
Hmm.
it sold me. I would come back just for the people, even if it wasn't super enjoyable to actually
Wow.
go on there in the dungeon and work
Wow.
with the players.
Wow. That does sound like Lori. She's a very nice person. So
Yes, she is.
unbelievable. Wow. That's so tragic that your first gig, you got food poisoning, because if it would have turned out worse, you might not have wanted to come back. So, and we
Uh,
wouldn't have you here. All right. So next up on my list, Gilstripe says always change your socks. That's right. That's true in war too.
True.
Do you have a favorite story about volunteering at a particular event? A favorite volunteering story?
Oh, I have a lot of volunteering stories. This is actually an entertaining story, and I'm going to tell on myself a little bit. I have
Okay.
occasionally gone out and partied, um, never while on shift, and you never show up drunk to the dungeon. But at Origins, there happens to be this little pizza joint close to the convention center, and a lot of people are unaware, but the pizza joint has a secret hidden tiki bar underneath.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so there was the last time we were at Origins, we went out and the entire tiki bar was full of volunteers. It was nothing but true dungeon people. And we all just after shift went there and we were drinking and hanging out and it just had a fantastic time. And that's probably my favorite part of going out with TD stuff is spending time with all of the amazing people.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard about that little spot. I think someone invited me. I don't know if it was to that thing. Maybe not because it was volunteers. But I just, man, after a convention day, I'm beat. I gotta go to sleep. So, I don't know how you could do it. Now, speaking of volunteering, how long did you volunteer before you got hired full time? I guess from 2012 to what, 24? I mean, 12
To
years?
the My first day was technically January 1st of 2024. So I volunteered for 11 years.
Wow. That is something else. Wow.
Not the longest running volunteer we've got, but I've been here for a while.
Wow. I'm floored. I don't know if I've done anything for that long. Um, I guess, yep, I've known my wife for long. I didn't convince her to marry me. It took me a long time to convince her to marry me, but I have known her a long time. So, so maybe she's endured as much as you have endured. Wow. So speaking of being hired, how did you get hired? And I guess when was also my question, but that's been answered January. But maybe there's more to that story. How did that happen? How did you become full time?
So, well, it started long before I was actually hired. In 2022, Lori's father passed away, and she was just finding that she needed some help with the administrative stuff. I did clerical work for years and years and years for a major construction company called Leaf Home Solutions. And I was in their admin department and then in their accounting department. And so I was just like, I've got clerical skills and I love spreadsheets. I can give you a hand. So this was before her father passed. She started teaching me how some of the back end stuff works on the volunteer site and all of that. And then I kind of slid into a contractor role. I was
Okay.
a 1099 contractor for TD, just doing, maybe 15, 20 hours of just admin stuff a week. And then after I'd done that for a year, this last October, I had what was essentially the most stressful job interview of my life, and that was Game Con last year.
Oh, where you were the coordinator or something, right?
It was my first year with director on my schedule, and
Oh,
I
I
had all
see.
of I was the person that was going through and doing a lot of the volunteer stuff and things leading into Con. So that was my first time doing that. And that was kind of like my job interview because I got the job offer within 2 weeks.
Wow, that's right. If I'm not mistaken, you and John basically ran Con last year, right?
We did. Jeff and Lori had to leave on Friday for some family stuff, so we just kind of took over Friday morning after they left and finished out the weekend.
Wow. And that was the one where I did the big display, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Wow, that was cool. I'm sure I bugged you like 100 times. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that you were
you didn't at
it was so
all.
big.
I Well, I didn't tell anybody, and I didn't tell anybody for a reason. I mean, there are so many people that have been working with TD for much longer than me, and that have been in higher position for much longer than me. That there's a part of me that still feels bad that I have the full-time job because it is a dream come true for me.
Wow.
And I know that there are so many other people that would have loved to have this kind of opportunity. So there's that little bit that's just like, I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want to make anyone mad that this is even being considered.
Oh wow. No, I think you are very deserving. And what is that? There's this phenomenon when you're in a job but you don't feel you deserve it, or you're doing something. Oh, I don't remember. Maybe somebody from chat, or maybe you can uh, decipher what I'm trying to remember. So, imposter syndrome, right?
Imposters.
That's what it's
Yes.
called. Did you have that? I mean, welcome.
Welcome to our, psychological discussion.
Are you saying that you felt that?
I still feel that
You still feel
every
that?
every time I am reading through a module and doing like an editing pass, I end up thinking to myself, I am not qualified for this.
Well, I think I of course have no experience with diagnosing any of this thing, but if I had to guess, I would assume people who feel that way are probably very kind and sweet, and just don't want to make mistakes, but they more than deserve whatever role they're in, and maybe that's just their way of dealing with it. So you definitely deserve it. Lori and, well,
Thank
I was going to say
you.
Lori and Jeff, but Lori's smart, so she knows what she's doing. So of course
So
you
rude.
deserve it. He's not here, so I can talk bad about him. So yes, and Katrina said imposter syndrome in chat. So yeah, she knew what I was talking about. All right, so let's see. Let me catch up on the chat here. Karma Dump says youth is how they still do that, Trent. Oh, maybe staying up, drinking. Yeah. Gilstripe says
It's
game.
not the youth, trust me. I'm not young.
Yeah. Well, I was in the Navy, so I did plenty of drinking then. Maybe that's it. I've done enough. I did my fill in the Navy. Gilstripe says Con was his first time volunteering. Very cool, full time. Ravens loved Con 2023. I agree. Tom has a question. What TTRPGs, tabletop role playing games, are you playing?
So, my monthly game group has an ongoing Pathfinder game, wherein I am the
Mm.
cleric because I am the mom friend. And then I am in a weekly Curse of Strahd campaign in D&D online.
Ooh, very cool.
And Those are my only two ongoing games at current, but if I had the energy and the time, I would be playing so many systems.
Hmm. Now, where are you in the Curse of Strahd campaign? Spoilers, in case anybody hasn't played this yet.
We are in Kresk. So we're at the point where the end game truly begins. And I have played Strahd before, so
Okay.
I'm trying my best not to say anything about what's going on in it because I know like the spoilers and the indicators and all of that. Strahd is one of my favorite stories. I love the old school Ravenloft and everything.
So yeah, that's a good series. I played that. I can't remember if I played a cleric in that or not. I don't remember, but whatever it was,
Oh,
it
now in
was
Strahd, I'm
good.
not a cleric. In Strahd, I am a barbarian.
Oh, very cool. Actually, I was a cleric because there's something cool you find in the church that's good for a cleric, and at the end, I gave it back.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's a good campaign. Great question. Rob has a question. If you had a token made for you, what item would it be, and what would you call it?
Oh, I don't know. This is a terrible thing to admit when you work for a company. I am nowhere near as well versed in tokens as anybody else. I think the only person who knows less about tokens than me is Lori. And that's just because she looks at it and goes, yes, these are the shiny poker chips that all of our players love, and that's all
Uh-huh.
she needs to know.
Yeah. That's okay. The
I,
players know the tokens really well, so it's okay if you don't.
they do. They do. And there's Token DB, which is my
Mm-hmm.
favorite. It's on all of my bookmarks listings.
That's right.
I think if they were going to make a token named after me, I would probably want it to be something for a bard. Bards are my standard class. Like, I know that's weird to say because I just admitted that I play a cleric and a barbarian, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, I tend to play very bard-like characters. So it'd probably be something for a bard.
Now, are you the seducing bard, if we're going stereotypical, or the supportive,
Yes.
inspiring bard?
Oh no, I am gonna push the button and seduce all of the enemies part.
I know, it's such a funny stereotypical thing to do. Yeah. Okay. All right. So great question. Tom says Ashley has some commissioned Strahd artwork with her D&D character. Ooh, I bet that's
Oh.
wonderful. I don't know if you can share that in
Mhm.
chat, but yeah, I don't know if that's a thing you can add. You can. I wonder, can I do that? Engage with your audience, start a Q&A. No, I don't see add image. Sorry. All right, so let's see. Next up, Raven says, what do you find the most challenging part of the new job, and what's the most rewarding part? Great question. And hello, Cover Stealing Badger.
I think the hardest part is dealing with the fact that I am not on location. So I am TD's first remote employee. I still live in Northeast Ohio, and I can't just walk over to the warehouse and have a look at a set. I need to message Jeff or John or Dan or somebody and get the information from them for things. And it's not always the easiest thing to work with, but
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I think it's helping that I have that kind of separation because I am looking at things from a very outside perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which in turn I think helps with what's going on in the warehouse because I can go, hey, coming from somebody who's not there and not building this could use this, and this. So,
Now,
and it's not often that I need to say anything to the warehouse because John and them have their shit together. They know
yeah.
what they're doing. It's usually something small like, hey, this is hard to see on the camera, and could we maybe do this small tweak? That's the majority of it.
Got it. Now, would you ever consider, or could you see something changing in your life or circumstances, maybe years down the road, where you would move there?
I don't know, honestly. I when I first moved to Northeast Ohio, I swore I was never going to live that far south again, and it has nothing to do with like culture or anything like that. It gets hot down there, and I moved north because I like the snow and the cold.
Ah, okay. Another reason to choose Chicago for the permanent location. It definitely gets chilly there.
But it's such a big city, and I hate the traffic.
Yeah, I'm okay with traffic. I don't really care because I just sit there and listen to music. So I hear you. Let's see. Going back to chat, Cover Stealing Badger says, "Heck yeah, Bard." John at True Dungeon says, "Working with John must be awesome." I think that's a statement.
It was actually, it's super awesome working with John.
He is awesome. So back to my questions here. Tom says cost of house in Carbondale is comparable to a token collection. Oh, I think I could maybe buy 2 houses in Carbondale with this shelf back here.
Probably.
Yeah. So back to my questions here, and if you have any more, chat, lay it on us. What would you say is the difference in volunteering and working full time? What's like the biggest difference?
Well, when you're volunteering, it's pretty much confined to the event. With virtual, there's a little wiggle room in that because, we have the play test that comes earlier, and then we have the DM tech check before the event actually starts. But for the most part, when you are volunteering, you are only working with TD during the time the dungeon is active. And now my everyday is TD, which is awesome, but also means that I struggle a little bit with the separation. Lori actually got on to me just last week saying, "Hey, no, you need to put your computer down and go do something that's not True Dungeon for a while." Because for a very long time, I was working 50, 60-hour weeks at my day job, and then as soon as I clocked out from my day job, I'd switch from my work laptop to my personal laptop and start going through TD stuff. So it's been an adjustment. I'm getting better, but
I know you actually emailed me True Dungeon work-related something on a Saturday or Sunday, and I thought, no, stop working on the weekend. Go breathe. Speaking of that, can you tell us what a typical workday is for you from a True Dungeon point of view?
It's basically what I'm doing with you right now, only the talking is between me and my house plants rather than another person. I get up and I go into my home office with some coffee, and then I am on my computer for the rest of the day. First thing in the morning, I'm always checking what token orders we've had come in, because if anybody has done something that qualifies them for the Adventurers Guild or the patrons, I send out those codes. You know that. I've been back and forth with you a couple of times. I get those from you, codes. Yes. And then it's from there, it depends on what's coming up. Right now, we're gearing up for V24, so my days usually start with, double checking module stuff, looking to see if there are any outstanding questions for me. And of course, with all of the Gen Con scheduling stuff, so much of my days the last couple of weeks have been Gen Con. Getting schedules out, making sure we're going to have enough hotel rooms for the people we've got. It's a lot of administrative stuff.
Speaking of hotel rooms, does this mean you can give yourself like a really good hotel room? That's what I would do.
I don't do my own hotel room specifically for that reason. I let Lori do it, and I just tell her what my preferences are the same way I did as a volunteer.
I see. Okay. Now, I would definitely give myself like the nice corner room with the big view. I'm a terrible person, so yeah.
I admit that I did have a really nice room at GameholeCon last year because Jeff and Lori left. They didn't want Gamehole to get the impression that they weren't using all of the rooms that we book. So I had been planning on not staying in a TD room for the whole weekend because Andrew does local install for GameholeCon every year. So we had a different hotel book, and we actually took over Jeff and Lori's room when they left. So we had, a slightly larger bed and things that I usually would get. But that is the exception, not the rule.
Right. And was that at the Connected Hotel?
Yes.
To the little tunnel? Yeah, that's where I always stay. Because, I love staying connected.
It's so convenient.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel like I probably am getting preferential treatment there because I do the Friday night thing. The hotel lady always like rebooks me automatically, so I never have to deal with the online thing. So, but I also
lucky.
Well, I also spend a lot from a sponsoring point of view, so that's okay. So I'll accept that preferential treatment. I like a nice airplane seat and I like a nice hotel. So let's check in with the chat. Belinda says, "What makes a..." Ooh, wow, wonderful question. Belinda, so by the way, isn't Belinda so smart?
Amazing.
Isn't
yes, absolutely.
Everyone else at True Dungeon just pales, from a brain power point of view, and I mean that sincerely. Belinda's so smart. So she has a wonderful question, of course. I'm kidding, True Dungeon. I love you. She says, "What?" She's blushing. What makes a good volunteer? Great question. And what can volunteers do to make your life easier? What makes a good volunteer?
Well, show up to your shifts early. If you are on time, you're late. Please show up at just a couple minutes, even just a couple minutes early. Makes life so much easier. Don't forget to hydrate. Take care of your feet and your body because we are too stressed to take care of you.
But Lori did when you got food poisoning.
She did.
She's
she
special.
did. And we do our absolute best to take care of our roles as much as we can. But honestly, the thing that makes great volunteers is enthusiasm and being willing to put in the work. And even if your work is just, hey, move this puppet, the volunteers that we remember the best are the ones that are just from their very first party to their very last party. They are energetic and excited about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And how, unless the answer is the same, how can volunteers make your life easier?
Well, like I said, show up early. Show up to all of your shifts. If there is any sort of issue, please communicate it. Please do. I cannot tell you how many times, both as a regular NPC, as an adventure coordinator, and now as an employee, number of times that we have found out about an issue after the dungeon has closed.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loathe that. If there is a busted prop or something, don't wait till the end of your shift to tell us. Tell us as soon as you can. I mean, there's radios all throughout the dungeon, and we do that in particular so that issues can be communicated. So let us know when there's a problem so that we can get it fixed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, great question. Katrina says, "Congratulations on the full-time job. See your face soon. Got to go. Bye." So I guess she had another thing. Okay, bye, Katrina. All right, so back to my list here. Do you have any terrible or good Jeff or Lori stories that we would love to hear?
Well, I told my best Lori story, I think, with her taking care of me on that first year. Honestly, I can't think of too many that I have with Jeff. Although every now and again, he will do something that just makes me go, "Oh my God, Jeff, you're such an old man."
It's true. He's old. I think we're the same age, by the way.
So we had a phone call a while back, and we were talking about some of the social media posts and things, because that's part of what I do too, is schedule some social media posts.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept saying, he kept talking about making sure I included this one particular thing in post. And it took me a good portion of the conversation to realize what he was saying. Because he kept saying, "You need to make sure you're using the right URL." And I had never in my life heard somebody refer to a URL as an URL.
No one does.
So,
I've never heard anybody
by
do
the
that
time
either.
I figured it by the time I figured that out, I got off the phone with him, and I just kind of sat there looking at my phone for a minute because I couldn't believe that and then I called Andrew and just went, you work in IT. Have you heard this before? And he, "Oh yeah, no, I hear that all the time."
Oh, he does? Really? I've never heard it either.
Yes.
I've been in computers since the late 80s. I've never heard anybody call it an URL.
I apparently that's something that he deals with from users rather frequently, because he works in website development. So and he works with people that aren't super technologically knowledgeable, and that I get. Yeah. And it made sense after he said that. I was like, "Oh, so that's why he says it that way. Okay, that makes some sense."
Interesting. Well, I work in the computer world since the 1980s, but the late 80s. But everybody I've worked with has been, technology people. So I've never heard anybody say Earl. I have heard him say that before. But yeah, what a nut. All right, so if you don't have anything bad to say about those two, how about somebody else like Katrina or any give us some crazy, mean story that we can save on the internet forever about somebody else.
We have been calling Katrina the Hurricane for years.
Ooh.
Because of Katrina, and that's just kind of the impact that she can have when she's so energetic all the time. And when we were much younger, that usually led to shenanigans. In particular, and she's gonna hate me for telling this story,
Great.
but I mean,
we want to hear that. And she just signed off too.
I know, it's perfect timing. So we had several of us that all lived in the same apartment complex when I was in college. I went to a tech school, so they didn't have any dorms, anything like that. We all had to live off campus. And one group of us had a 3-bedroom apartment, and we threw a New Year's Eve party, and we had like a Nerf gun fight. It's 11, midnight, super late. Katrina jumped onto the back of one of our friends, who then rotated.
This is Katrina.
And That's Jessa. That's not Katrina.
Damn it. Hold on. Oh, I suck at this. Oh my God. All right. Which one is Katrina then? Here's Katrina, right?
Yes, that's Katrina and me and Phil.
I tried. People.
Katrina leaped up onto our friend's back, and they pivoted kind of into the wall, and then Katrina's rear end went through the drive, and there was a hole in the shape of her backside in the drywall. And to her credit, the next morning, by the time I woke up, she had already gone out to the store, gotten a drywall patch, and installed it. Just by the time I woke up the next morning, she had patched the drywall. I was like,
what in the world? So she's a hurricane with body breaking abilities, but she can also fix the problems that she breaks.
Yes, and to her credit, she will fix the things that she breaks every time.
God. Wow, the Hurricane. Okay, so next time you see Katrina, make sure you call her the Hurricane for obvious reasons. Yeah, and speaking of these photos here, I have some photos that we can go through. Let me check with the with the chat here. Stephen Watkins says, what is your best story about a volunteer or group of volunteers? What is your worst story? And also, what is your best story about TD players? What is your worst story? Okay, so I'll let you pick any of those that you may be interested in.
Let's see. Well, we'll start with volunteers. I have too many great volunteer stories to really choose a best, because there's just been so many experiences, so many things that we've done over the years. And of course, I've done so many conventions with TD at this point. Worst experience with a volunteer, and this is a person that's no longer around. So I don't feel bad talking about it, but I roomed with a couple of volunteers a while back. Like they were actively together, and the girl in this couple was just a raging bitch the entire weekend. And her partner happened to be a friend of mine, so like watching my friend get treated badly by the person he was dating while sharing a room with them was the worst experience I could ever imagine. I'm glad for him that he's no longer in that situation, but oh God, that weekend was exhausting. Player-wise, I think the worst player story I ever had isn't actually all that bad. I was at PAX South, and this was the year we took the N series to PAX South. So that would have been 2019, I think.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and it was late at night, and I had Phil as my DM. If I had told him about this, he would have handled it in a blink of an eye. But I had a player that was just drunk as could be. I don't know how he made it to room 6 that drunk. Like, you would think he would have sobered up a little bit at that point. He must have had it hidden on him somewhere. But he, put his arm around me and was like leaning on me and stuff. And I was, nah, dude, that's okay. You can go away.
Wow, that's bizarre. Yeah. Speaking of reporting it, that would have been a good thing to report, I think, right? Because you're not supposed to touch people.
No, you're not. And if he hadn't listened when I just said, please don't do that, then I would have immediately. But it was late. We had like 2 parties left before the end of the day. And the guy was about 4 inches shorter than me, so I was never scared.
Okay. All right. Got it. And in chat, someone says, Steven says, pour one out for Pac South. Yeah, Pac South. Gilstrife says, rest in peace, Pac South. I know, it was a good one.
But it's okay, because we still get to be in San Antonio. We get to go to San Japan now. And
San Japan, I know. I'm pumped for San Japan. Basically the same hotel.
I'm not pumped for the time of year. September in Texas is going to be miserable, but I love.
Wait, why are you outside? You're inside. Area. You're inside on the AC.
Because the Riverwalk, Trent, where all the good food is in San Antonio.
I basically sit out back at Ruth Chris and I look outside at the Riverwalk, and that's enough for me. So that's enjoyable enough for me. So
at the very least, you need to get down to La Velita Cafe.
Is that food court area? Is it past there or near there? Because I've been to that.
It's a little past. There's like a little arts district down on one end. It's an amphitheater right there along the Riverwalk. But it is a little breakfast spot, La Velita Cafe. They have pancakes that are this big. And everything there is good. I went there, the first Pac South I went there for breakfast every single day. I got up early before my TD shifts and walked all the way down to this little place.
How long is the walk?
It was that good.
How long?
From the hotel, it was probably a 10-minute walk.
Okay. I might ask you about that place. I like a good breakfast, so yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely worth going. It does not look like much. Like, you get there and you look in and you're like, really, this place? But no, everything was delicious. And those are sometimes the best places, I think. The ones that don't look like they're going to be incredible, and then they end up having the best food ever.
I agree. Yep, I'm with you there. All right, so Stephen Watkins has a question. When will volunteer info go out for San Japan?
Hopefully soon. We're kind of waiting to get some of this Gen Con stuff out of the way first. But what we really need is we need more people to volunteer. I think we have enough volunteer applications right now to actually fill out the schedule, but it is always helpful to have more applications in there than you need.
Right. Now, speaking of volunteering, for someone who's interested in volunteering but hasn't yet, what would you tell them to kind of help them make that decision?
Well, firstly, understand that when you're volunteering, you're giving up a huge portion of your convention. Yeah, I mean, when you are volunteering, you are locked down in the dungeon or in the area surrounding the dungeon, if you happen to be front end or epilogue or something like that, for a large chunk of your convention experience. So you have to be prepared that you are going to be sacrificing that, but also look at what you're going to gain, because we have an incredible volunteer community, and you basically have an entire shift where you're doing nothing but experiencing the joy of this game. Like, every party that comes in, they want to be there. You wouldn't pay the ticket price for True Dungeon if you didn't want to be there. And they're all, even the parties that are quieter, you can still kind of feel the energy and the excitement that they have. Like, that is an incredible experience. So I would kind of lean toward that. Like, there's no experience like that anywhere else. Like, I have worked haunted houses. I've done other events that have all kinds of weird things going on. True Dungeon has the best experience, both from a volunteer standpoint and from, I think, a player standpoint. But, I also have to say that I work for them.
Well, that's true, though. And if nothing else, every 2 to 3 hours, you'll see me kind of looping through, so.
Exactly. You can guarantee you're going to see Trent, and if you don't see SmackDown, something's wrong.
Yep, right. You'll definitely see us every few hours. All right, checking in with chat. Guild Strife seems to be in San Antonio, so he says it is hot as heck there. A couple of spots that are really great. He says that he and his bard volunteered, and I think we convinced 2 others to volunteer for the first time as well at San Japan. Yeah, that's great, and that would be perfect because you guys can request a room together. Wait, you probably don't need a room if you live there. But anyway, and he says that volunteering does have a great vibe. The volunteers, there's many reasons that I love True Dungeon, and the volunteer group of people is definitely one of those little pieces of the pie because they're always so kind and helpful, and especially for new people because there's a lot going on and a lot to take in, so to have people explain everything is really great. All right, so we are coming close to our final questions here, so if anyone has any questions in the chat, please lay it on us. I have just a couple of more here for you. The next thing I want to do is pull up this here. Next week is virtual True Dungeon 24 Desert Nights Underworld Odyssey, May 3rd through 5th. If you don't have tickets yet, you can go to td.events. That's the website name, or the URL, as Jeff would say, and get more information about it and also get your tickets. Now, earlier this week, you and I assume some other volunteers or workers or whatever did a playthrough. So for us civilians who don't understand that, can you explain what a play test is and how that all works?
So calling what we do a couple of weeks out from the event a play test is honestly a little generous. When I was in school, and for all of your listeners that don't know, my degree is in digital entertainment and game design. That's what I studied. But when I was in school, we talked about play tests, and the way we talked about play tests at the time was that you would have your testers go through an entire level or an entire game if you were doing a smaller game, and try out a long list of different things. What we do is really more of a walkthrough and then kind of a visual check for the puzzles. Because, our combats are generally either pre-recorded or we have a live actor in the room. So with those, we don't have to do a whole lot. We do some test rolls to try and make sure that there aren't any issues with the app and website and things like that as we go through. Mm-hmm. But most of what our walkthrough is for is testing the puzzles. And that is the one piece that our volunteers that do our play test actually play start to finish. They get the puzzle room, and they get it revealed to them the exact same way that the players do. They have no idea what's coming. Nobody has seen a module. And then I am timing it manually because I turn the horn off when we're doing it because we go through the combats a lot faster than 12 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then they get their 12 minutes to try and solve the puzzle so that we can make sure that it is well lit, that it's easy to see, and that it is solvable using the assets that we do provide.
Interesting. So it's more of a walkthrough. Yeah. In software world, when we test something, we try to break it. So you guys aren't trying to break anything. Mm-hmm. You're just trying to make sure it's not broken, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. We're basically just giving it a little preview. And that's also how we walk the DMs through a module that they haven't seen yet. So when they come in for the playtest, our DMs have no idea what the adventure is going to be. And by the end of it, they've seen what the adventure looks like from start to finish so that they can have a feel of how they want to run it as a DM.
Very cool. Okay, that's interesting. All right. Let me check in with Chet here. Gilstrife says, yeah, local install is great. Gateway to doing gateway. It's the gateway drug. Gateway to doing True Dungeon Volunteer. It's how I got my barbarian into playing. She got interested while helping building the dungeons. Okay. Live actor combats are always great. I agree. Tom has a question. What is your involvement in dungeon design? Are you involved at all in that?
Very little. The only stuff that I really occasionally contribute is going to be NPC stuff. I did a little bit of writing for V17 last year, but right now all the dungeon design is still mostly the Jeff, John, and Dan show. And I kind of just look it over and use, feedback that we've gotten from virtuals and things like that to kind of review them. I would like to be more involved in the future, but that is something that's very difficult to do at a distance. And I think a lot of my stuff ends up being just more administrative and editing position at the moment.
Got you.
But there are a couple of things where I've gotten to go in and go, okay, well, let's try this or this or this. Or Dan and I have worked together to get a combat out there and settled away. And it's a lot of fun.
Okay, awesome. All right. Raven says the players says many grog who ripped the chain off a prop during a GT run. Oh no. Tom,
I'm sorry. All I see is Wade in my head right now.
Yeah, Wade's nothing but a big problem, that's for sure. Tom says, did V17 have puzzles involving sins? He says he was good at those.
It did. The V17 was the one with the sins. I didn't fully design any of those puzzles, but two of them were an idea that I had written out, and then Jeff and John took it and made it much better and a reality that the players could actually play through. So
that's really cool. By the way, let me pull up this photo, and for the viewing audience, I had planned to. I always make a plan for the show, and then rarely does my plan work. I'd planned to kind of intersperse photos during our conversation as things came up. I attempted to do that with Katrina, but I pulled up the wrong photo. I'm really bad with names. It's just a terrible thing for me. But I'm usually much better at faces. But anywho, that didn't go as planned. So now we'll go through the photos that I wanted to show you. And this is the first one. So can you tell us what this photo is here? What's going on here?
Oh, Lord. So that is me in my dad's convertible, which was a 1981 Fiat Spider when I was about 3. And
wow.
I don't know exactly what they'd given me to drink. It was probably like a Slurpee or something, but I decided I was going to make a goofy face.
I think this is absolutely the cutest photo ever. It looks like an album cover, I love it. This should be an album cover for sure.
I was a cute baby. What can I say?
What can you say? Yeah, when you're cute, you're cute. All right, so let's see who do we have here?
That would be my dad, and his first Jack Russell, Hank. And that dog was all at once the best and also the bane of my existence, because my dad had that dog trained to where he could go wake Sissy up, and that dog would come to my room, jiggle the door handle until he could get it open, jump up on the bed, and then start licking my face until I would get up. There was no sleeping once he had been told to go get Sissy up.
Oh my. Now, Sissy, was that his nickname for you?
That's what Dad called me to the dog. That was
probably
what Dad called me to the dog, but to nobody else.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think it might have been sister. All right. So who do we have here?
That is my mother. And you can see some similarities there. We have the same little cheeks and the nose.
I do. I see the similarities there. All right. So that was Daddy and Mommy.
Of course, the matching Die Hard shirts.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that the first time. Yeah, I see it now. Yeah. Very cool. Mm-hmm. All right. So next up, what are we looking at here?
So this is a painting that my mom did of me, and she did that off of a goofy selfie I took one weekend morning, and she just decided she loved it. My mother has been doing oil portraits for longer than I've been alive, and she's gotten very, very good
Wow. Speaking of commissioned art, wow, very nice. And here's another one, right?
That's me and my little cousin. On my mom's side of the family, there are only two grandchildren. There's me and Carson. Carson is 12 years younger than I am.
Got it. This is really cool. I love anything, beach or ocean related. So really great use of color here. And here we have another one of you.
Yeah, there's so many paintings of me. Nobody should have as many paintings of themselves out in the world as I do. So this is actually from a photo that was taken in Saba. Saba is an island in the Caribbean. It's part of the Netherlands Antilles down there. And it is one of my favorite places in the world I've ever been to. It's just absolutely beautiful place.
Very cool. Another painting.
That's in an Irish pub.
Oh, wow. Okay. Uh-oh, what's going on here?
So I took dance when I was younger. This is where the NPC, where the dramatic flair came from. I did ballet, tap, and jazz, and this is from my senior recital. And of course, I was on point because I did my solo on point that year.
Oh, my God. This is great. This is great. And now, who are these crazy cats?
So that is my friend Jenny, and Jenny has unfortunately never been involved in True Dungeon. Not because she wouldn't be interested; she would absolutely love it. She just has kids, so she never gets to go out and do it. This is when we were young teenagers. That is the Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire premiere in my hometown at our little tiny theater, and we dressed up for it.
As well as you should have. That's great. All right. And who is this wild animal?
That would be high school me.
Oh, great. High school you. And this is when you were reading the dark fantasy stuff, right? How did you describe the books?
I still read all the dark fantasy books, yes. But I was reading some of them at that time. That would have been 2005 or 6.
Wow, very cool. And more dance stuff? Oh, no, that's what this looks like, but you're actually cosplaying here, right?
Yeah, that's it. Origins Game Fair.
Wow.
Which was my first ever convention in 2007 was Origins, and I was dressed up as Zatanna Zatara from DC Comics.
Okay, for you DC fans. All right. Raven says, thanks for the show. Thank you, Raven. Another one. And here's another cosplay. Who's this one?
That's Poison Ivy.
Uh-huh. Now, I think cooler people than me would get this much quicker than I would. And what's going on here?
So that is a massive Toothless plushie. Toothless is a character in How to Train Your Dragon. And I used to take teenagers out to conventions. I ran a travel group that was like the safe space to send your kids. That way you knew they had some adult supervision. And one of the younglings that I used to take to shows, she built this thing. Wow. She hand sewed that entire plushie. It was like 6 feet long. And we had it propped up on a podium in one of the panel rooms, and just this goofy picture got taken.
Love it. Okay. A non-goofy picture.
It is. It's also a picture where I was surrounded by TD people. That is at the Ohio Renaissance Festival. They do a Yuletide kind of festival every year, and so I did this Lady Krampus costume, and a whole bunch of us TD folks went out and checked out the Yuletide festival.
Awesome. All right, now what's going on here with this? I don't think I would be. It would be inappropriate for me to call this a sexy photo. If you allow that phraseology.
It is probably the sexiest photo of me that exists, so I'll take it. This was just a backyard modeling shoot that one of my friends did. She was testing out a camera and needed a subject.
Very cool. And your mom liked it so much that she painted it.
She did. And I love that painting too. It almost looks like she painted it on velvet just for how she got all of the highlights and stuff going.
It's a very, very nice painting, that's for sure. All right, now speaking of fun people to hang out with, what's going on here?
So this is mostly my regular game group. We had a couple of additions because this actually happened to be during a bachelorette party. But basically everybody but the two on the far right is my usual game group. We went out and did escape rooms, and so that's why we've got all of the signs and clearly the dynamite and the bags of cash. It was a Western themed.
Okay. Okay, I love it. I like the.
There are a couple of TD volunteers in this picture too. The one hiding behind the I did a thing sign, that's Cassie. She's one of our virtual DMs and also an NPC and NPC DM at some of our in-person shows. And then next to her is her partner, Mike, who's also one of our NPC DMs.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, next up. I think this is the photo Katrina. I was trying to find. Crazy Katrina. The hurricane.
Yeah. That's a great shot of us, too, from many moons ago at an anime con.
And was this before True Dungeon?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that would have been pre-TD.
Amazing. So you guys have known each other for a long time. That's very cool. This is Cassie.
Me and Cassie. Just, standard Halloween photo there.
Okay, standard Halloween. Cassie and Matt. Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's us out at festivals. We go to a lot of local festivals and just check out drinks and that kind of thing.
Got it. All right. And what's going on here?
So this is the Hawkin year. This may have been
2000.
Your first year.
I don't.
Maybe.
I don't think so. Really?
See, this was the Gnomish airship year.
I think that's
that led into Cogwin's Tower.
I think that's 15.
No, because 15 was Underdark. So this might have been
13. 14. Either 13 or 14.
It's not 13 because it wasn't Cassie's first year.
Okay, so 14 then.
Yeah.
We're guessing. Somebody in chat can correct us.
Yeah, that's actually the other Caitlin from the NPC pool next to me.
Okay. Caitlin's Unite.
All mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Okay. Now,
that's hailing. That's from Moongate Maze, so the first Felurian dungeon that we did.
Mm-hmm. That was 19, 18?
18, I think.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah,
makeup.
18 was when we took it to Origins. That's the end series. That was the prisoner costume right before you got to the World Tree.
Yeah, that was a great dungeon. Here's the prisoner again, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's one of my favorite shots that I have ever taken as an NPC. I had a blast in that role.
Yeah, I believe this was the first time that I had done a dungeon where we got to interact with an NPC that wasn't in the beginning. It was like in the middle of the dungeon. I thought that was a wonderful, technique. So I loved it very much. This is you as the prisoner,
I loved
right?
that NPC role. Yep. So, once again as the prisoner. And of course, you can see that was when we all carried radios. So I've got the radio down on my hip real low.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from the chat here. Speaking of that, chat, if you have any questions, the last call for questions. Stephen Watkins says, how can we get a TD wiki made so that we can all remember which year had what encounters? I'll take that question. We actually do have something kind of like that, but not exactly what you're talking about. But maybe email me that suggestion, and maybe we can add it. If you go to truedungeontokens.com, you can see, of course, it has all the tokens. TokenDB is like the source. It's like the Bible of all the tokens. My buddy and I, we made truedungeontokens.com to kind of take it to the next level for collectors. For the TokenDB, it's all of the information, but it's not every single token, as in like platinum, onyx, and so forth. So if you go to truedungeontokens.com, you can see a filtering list of every convention. It talks about which token came out at which convention first, like when it first appeared. So we kind of have that, but it's not a true wiki like what you're talking about. But if I pulled up that window, I would be able to see what year these different things came out. So that's kind of half of an answer to your question there. Flaxen, the only NPC to not attack us to attack us, says Gilstripes. And Steven says, I really miss all
Not the only.
Yeah, there's been like one other one. Steven says, I really miss all the old modules where we used to come out. My memory isn't great, but I can look through the printed mods to remember the past years. Yeah, I know, I miss those too.
I would love it, honestly, if we would release some modules on Drive-Thru RPG. I think that'd be a great way for us to do that. If we could put them up on there, and then you could either purchase the PDF or Drive-Thru RPG does print-on-demand stuff.
Yeah, right.
So I think that would be something really, really cool for us to do, and it's on my never-ending list of things that I hope to one day get to and try and, like, talk up and make happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, and Steven says 100%. All right, so now this I thought was Katrina, but I was wrong. This is Jessa.
So that's Jessa. Yeah, and she was, if you've already played Curse of Crimson Isle, you may have seen Jessa in that particular dungeon. She's played the same role there twice now, but that's actually at the hidden tiki bar that I was talking about. That's in Origins. That photo was taken there.
Well, you were talking about it. I'm going to try to dig myself out of a hole here. So, I mean, that's why I pulled this up, because it was at the tiki bar. Okay? All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to let that pass. Okay, so here's some volunteers, right?
How we were trying to get another volunteer to come out and join us at a bar.
Okay, and now I see that you're all kind of frowning here or pouting, and you're pouting in this one too. What's going on with all the pouting?
It's the pout of John Cook. Why aren't you out here with us? Because that's the NPCs always try and drag John out, and he never goes out with us.
Oh, he's horrible. I hate him so much.
Both of these photos are exactly that. They are us trying to tempt John into coming out and joining us at a bar.
But Katrina didn't get the memo. That's not pouting. So, here's another one.
That's breakfast at Gamehole Con. Me, Katrina, and my wonder twin, Phil.
Okay. More volunteers, right?
Yes. So a few years back, my mom offered to host several volunteers, and we all came down to her place for New Year's Eve. So, and before New Year's Eve came around, we decided we were going to drive out to Point Pleasant in West Virginia and go to the Mothman Museum because it was close. And so, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, no. Well, at least you got this cool photo. And speaking of cool photos, this is the coolest photo ever. Who is this, and what is what's going on here?
So this is me and Andrew Knoll, and if you're on the forums, you have seen him using that exact username. He doesn't use any weird, interesting names, but he is my partner. We've been together now for a little over a year, and we met because of True Dungeon.
Oh, congratulations. Wow. Does he know how lucky he is?
He's not the lucky one. That would be me. I am the one that is lucky because he deigns to give me the time of day. He really is just the most wonderful human.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm sure that he might disagree with that there. Well, that's...
But we know I'm right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, of course, you're always right. So... is there anything else that we haven't covered? I know we covered a lot that you would like to share, something else that we thought we were going to talk about, because I think I have more notes, but
but we had a lot of notes.
Yeah, I know. Is anything that you would definitely wanted to share with the world that you didn't get a chance to?
The biggest thing is just that True Dungeon does have the best volunteer experience out there. Like I said, I've done anime cons, gaming cons, I've done all kinds of different stuff over the years, and there is no organization with better treatment, in my opinion, of their volunteers. We really are trying our best to give them the best experience possible, because we know we can't do this without them. Without volunteers, we don't have NPCs, we don't have the DMs in the dungeon, we don't have any of the admins that are up front just giving you your wristband and telling you go in. We don't have any of that. So we need them, and we want to treat them well to keep them coming back. Okay.
Well, I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Caitlin, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate your time. It was wonderful to chat with you and hear all the terrible things about Jeff and all the wonderful things about Lori. Until I see you, I guess I'll see you in person at Gen Con. That might be the first time. Is that right?
Maybe you're not doing Origins.
I'm not. I can't go to Origin scheduling wise, but so Gen Con will be the first time.
Happens.
Yeah, and I'll be at I'll not be at Origins. I'll be at Gen Con, San Japan, and GameholeCon. Are you going to all of those?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's part and parcel of being an employee now. Is I will be at every one of those.
Okay, awesome.
Even
now,
if other people aren't, I'll be there.
Yeah. Now, are you going to be like running the show like you were at Gamehole, or do you know?
Depends on the show. So some are different than others. As of right now, I think it's me and John at Origins, but I don't know about the other ones just yet.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person at Gen Con will be the first time, and I'll try not to book you too much because that's a busy show. I know. And
you're never a bother, Trent. You just come find me if you need something.
Oh, look, you heard it first. So there's the I got permission. I'll just play this little clip, on my phone and say, "See, you said, Lori, she said." Well, thank you, Caitlin. It's been a supreme pleasure having you on the show. I do appreciate it very much, and hopefully you had a good time, and we didn't get in too much trouble saying bad things about Jeff.
I think we're okay. If I don't have a job on Monday, I'm going to blame you.
Oh, well, that would be a good excuse. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, thank you very much, Caitlin. You have a good one, and I will talk to you next time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. See you, Caitlin. Thank you. All right, everybody, that was Caitlin. How cool is that to have her on the show? We got to learn all kinds of interesting behind-the-scenes info about her and True Dungeon, etc. Lots of good info about volunteering. If you haven't volunteered yet and you're interested in volunteering, go to tdvols.com. Is it TD? Yeah, I think that's it. tdvols.com. You could also check Facebook. True Dungeon Volunteers has their own group, and it's an amazing thing to do. If you haven't tried it yet, I would absolutely recommend you trying. And thank you very much for watching the show, whether you watch live or you watch later. Please do that liking and subscribing and sharing and all that other algorithm stuff. It's very good to help spread the love of the show. And everybody in chat, thank you very much. I see a lot of people saying thank you, and thank you very much for watching live. Hopefully you had a good time. And since you're still watching, I'm going to give you a little tidbit, a little treat. If you're still watching, here's the treat for you. So today's the 27th of April. Next weekend is the show, the next adventure, VTD 24. The following weekend is the Mother's Day weekend, and I'm going to be doing a special episode with Lori, the mother of True Dungeon, on Mother's Day. So there's a little tidbit for you. And if you're still watching, you deserve this extra tidbit of info. May is the 7th anniversary of Trent Tokens. I'm going to do a huge drawing, a huge free drawing. I'll send out information at the beginning of May, how to enter. And if you've ever visited Trent Tokens and purchased anything, you're already entered. But there's going to be a grand prize. And the grand prize is, let's see if I can show the camera here. Let me hide my eyeballs. There you go. So if you can read that, that is the grand prize. That is going to be given away free. It is a golden ticket, a 2024 golden ticket. I'll be doing more, info about this, but if you're still watching, that means you're a true hard fan. So I want to give you that little tidbit of info. And the way to win that is to just watch the next show live. So I will be choosing a winner live at the end of the next show, which is going to be May 12th. It's the Lori show, the mother of True Dungeon. So there you go. Lots of free gifts, and the grand prize will be a golden ticket. More info to come. You'll see. It's going to be awesome. And speaking of awesome, thank you very much for watching. And I'll close with one of my favorite things to say. It's very, very hard to frown when you're smiling, so please smile.